Namaste. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sadhana, and today I am continuing with the Wildwood Tarot series. Today we're going to look at the energy of the equinoxes and the cards that surround the equinoxes, both the spring, the vernal equinox, and the autumnal equinox. And we're going to talk about the dates and just get everybody's head wrapped around when the energy of these seasons is, both in the northern and the southern hemispheres. Yeah, and look at these absolutely gorgeous cards that support the energy of these seasons. So welcome to those of you in the chat, and I will check in with you from time to time. Hi, Kristen. Hello to Andrew. Thanks for being here with me. And if you do have questions, please be sure to tag me or to put your question in caps. So I thought we would get right to the cards. I've done several videos, and if you feel like there's something that I'm talking about that you don't quite understand what I'm saying, I suggest that you go back to the previous videos, because I've really kind of taken this on a step-by-step journey to help work with this deck. This deck is brilliant, and one of the things about this deck also is I feel that it will inform your readings with other decks as well too. Even though this is its own unique series, I feel like there's something we learn from other decks that we can apply to our general knowledge. And there's something really, really brilliant about this deck. So where we are, and if I feel the need to put up some of the overlays, I will. I still have them, the files there, the pretty pictures that I made on Canva. So this is where we are, right? We are talking today about that place where the night and the day are equal. The energy of the sun and the moon are equal. And in this tarot deck, at the time of the spring equinox, so this is the time of air in the wheel of the year according to the Wildwood Tarot. So everything I'm talking about is according to the Wildwood Tarot. And I realize that there are other tarot decks that follow the wheel of the year and have different associations or slightly different timings. Druidcraft is one, and maybe perhaps eventually I could do a comparison video of the timings of the wheel of the year, because that's something that's kind of interesting as well too. It's very similar but slightly different. So here we're over here in the energy where we are in the northern hemisphere now, coming towards the vernal equinox. And today we're going to talk right about this line here. In the southern hemisphere, we're shifting into autumn, and the seer is the overseer of the suit of vessels, which is the suit of cups, which, you know, is here in the wheel. And so in the wheel of the year with this deck, we have the cross quarters kind of going like this. And so in the northern hemisphere right now, we're kind of if this is where we are in the northern hemisphere, this was Emolk. And so now we're kind of like here, making our way to this line. And then in the southern hemisphere, over here was Lammas or Lugnasad, and then moving this away. So today's conversation is about this line right here. Hey there, Pinky Lee. Mary Beth, good morning. Welcome. And if you have any questions, make sure to tag me or put them in caps. So so let's start over in the northern hemisphere. In this deck, there are the major arcana sit on what is referred to as an inner wheel and an outer wheel. I don't really feel that understanding which cards are inner wheel, which cards are outer wheel is immensely important, but I will speak to that today just a little bit. The inner wheel, so the major arcana that sit on the inner wheel, are meant to represent the human experience, the very, very real life experience. And the card that we're working with on the inner wheel for the equinox is the Archer. And this is such a powerful powerful card. And I have, as I've shared with you before, I've been reviewing all 3 books that are associated with this deck and trying to wrap my head around the path. And I call it path work. It's like when certain decks come up, when certain cards come up in a reading. So I'll give you an example of the dogs here. As I was reading and studying this card, I started to reflect upon what the dogs represent in this card. There's this energy that is connecting the dogs to the archer. And I believe in the books, they talk about the dogs representing the power of the archer. There's just some profound connection here. And this really made me think about the Strength card and what the difference was between the animal in the Strength in relation to the human and this card here. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to really, take your time with these cards. Every single deck, unless you're working with a straight up RWS, or you have already learned the Thoth and you're working with a Thoth clone, or, when you move to different artwork, there's always going to be a base layer of energy that you can bring in, unless, of course, the creator has gone in a completely different direction. But regardless, I find that taking my time is the most important advice in learning a deck. And that's why I decided to break this series down so very, very slowly. There's also this incredible energy here. Incredible relationship between the human and the skill of, and the timing and the experience of drawing back and letting go. And I want you to think about that metaphorically, the drawing back and the letting go. Because there's something about the Chariot card that we tend to always talk about as the moving forward. And in my reflection on this card, there was something that really got to me about that contemplation of the preparation, the timing of the drawing back, and then the actual letting go. And the skill that's involved in that, the training that's involved in that. And so there's some deeper level to this Chariot card that I want to take with me and to contemplate when I look at other chariots, to see if there is that experience of the energy of this, the pulling back, the preparation, and then the release. And then, it's like when we let go, when we move into a place of trust and move forward, we have let go of a piece of ourselves. And perhaps that's one of the reasons the Chariot card is so difficult, is because in order to move forward, we need to move into that place of trust. And part of the moving into the trust is the actual, there's some fear around letting go. The skill of letting go. And with all of these cards, you can take this you can work with the experience. You can work with the experience of the art and look at it quite literally, and then you can take it to the deeper levels. And then, of course, the other question is, what are you going to put in your quiver? And we're going to look at a few different tools here today, because the tools play an important part of the tools throughout the whole tarot. We tend to focus on them only in the Magician when we're looking at an RWS, for the most part. In this deck, the tools throughout the whole major arcana, and they come back in the minors, are really, really important. And I like that layer that's woven in. There's just something about that. I do have a lot of notes beside me if I don't want to to miss anything here, because this is just beautiful stuff. The outer, so this is the inner energy of when we're sitting in the Spring Equinox, also known as Ostara. Over here is the stag. So the stag represents, this is justice in this card. So this would be 11 in RWS. And have a look at the tools here. So we have the axe and we have the shield. On the shield, this is not meant to be the tree of life. This is meant to represent the great oak. And this is a card that takes the metaphor of balance, using the environment. And in this deck, the creators spend a lot of time talking about the environment and the importance of the environment and nature, and how we can learn so much from that, and how humans have not treaded very lightly, and come in from quite an arrogant point of view. And well, I don't really need to speak to that, because we all know where we are right now in the present state of things in 2021. But this metaphor of working with the environment, the respect for the environment. This stag here is the guardian of the forest, the protector of the forest, and the stag stands here. You know, this kind of represents, I guess you could say, this is the scales. And we need to look at the metaphor of the axe and the shield. Well, we can look at the metaphor of the axe and the shield as we do at the scale and what is sitting on the scale, and as well as the sword. This could also represent the sword in a traditional justice card. So sometimes it helps if you can match your symbols. And then this card also asks us, you know, what is our personal adjustment that needs to happen at this time? And this is the outer layer. So there's a lot of, there may be connections to bigger issues with this card. This one might feel very personal. This one might feel like bigger issues. And so I think if we can allow the environmental issues to kind of trickle back and make our own personal adjustments, changes, shifts of patterns at this time, they might make it more potent, right? If we can look at it through a different lens. Okay. We subconsciously know when a realignment of our perceptions is due. Love that. We subconsciously know when a realignment of our perceptions is due. And when I think of it, when I hear that word adjustment, every time I hear that word adjustment, I think of that movie, The Adjustment Bureau, and how little tiny adjustments can help so much. And we don't understand, like if you've never seen that movie, you need to see that movie. So if we make a tiny adjustment, that adjustment has an effect in the greater world. I guess that's kind of what I want to say here. Okay. The other thing too is to remember, we talked about this, I believe, on the very first day. I'm just going to quickly put up this graphic. So at the spring equinox, this is when the sun is beginning to rise. So here we are, this is the energy of sunrise. This is the energy of dawn. So all of your metaphors, all of your associations with the beginning of the season also fit here as well too. So this is where the sun, right? Dawn. So just think dawn, sunrise. That's where we are. And then so as we come over here, because we're going to talk about this one next. So this is the sunrise, and then over here is the sunset. This is the sunrise, this is the sunset. So this is the dawn, this is the dusk. So many wonderful layers to build in here. Okay. I'll just check in with all of you. Kristen says the skill of letting a bow go. Oh, you do archery. That's wonderful. When you do archery, your inner arm gets thoroughly bruised. It is not an easy skill. It is not by any means. Okay, so some of this we have talked about before, and I just want to bring this to just remind you of this. So at the equinoxes and the solstices, this is where the sixes in the minor arcana sit. And here in the suit of arrows, we have the six of arrows, which is the keyword is transition. This is very RWS, RWS-esque. And so we can just start to understand why this transition kind of fits in so perfectly at this change of the seasons. We also have the Swan, who is the Queen of Vessels, represented as the boat. So this card connects us to the opposite side, right? This card connects us over here because the Queen of Vessels is the Swan over on this side. And then, sorry, the Queen, no, she's not. She's right here. Pardon me. She's right here. The Queen of Vessels is the salmon. Your Swan is sitting right here. So I'm going to put the queens on the outside. Sorry, the queens go on the inside because we go king. No, she goes here. My bad. I'm trying to pictorially get this to make sense. In the Wildwood Tarot, we go king at the cross quarters, and then queen, and then knight, and then page. So yeah, so here's another example of a path you could follow in linking your cards together. So let the swans connect, let the swans talk to one another. And if you look at the hawk here over the archer, there's this very interesting energy. I just was looking at the color of his sleeve, the color of his shirt, the color of his pants. And sometimes that's all I need to do is to glance at color, and I get this really interesting, I don't know, I get these feelings. And that's another video that I really want to do. I want to talk about trusting feelings. And I had a very profound reading yesterday, and messages were flying through that I did not understand. And I want to share that story with you. So that's going to come up soon. Just checking my notes about this season, if there's anything else urgent. Okay. So let's go across the way, right? So before I do, all of these cards have a connection with the equinox, with the spring equinox. And they touch them in slightly different ways. They carry different meanings. And so if you were not kind of putting down a landscape underneath the reading, or not choosing a significator, and you just knew in your mind that all of these cards here are associated with the changing of the seasons, then that is just a beautiful layer in itself. And you can read the cards individually. You can read them in combination. You can find the connections between the different symbols on the cards. There's just so many possibilities in reading with this deck. Okay. We'll see what it looks like leaving so many cards on the table. Moving across on the other side. I do have all my cards ready today. Okay. On the inner part of the wheel, we have the mirror, which corresponds to the Hanged Man. I'm just reading Andrew's comment. If no one hears a tree fall, did it ever happen? It did happen. Okay, so the mirror. This is quite the card. And I would really take your time with this card and to enjoy the different legends that are associated with this card. In this Hanged Man deck series, I've already had a briefish look at the Tarot of the She. And there's something about this card that reminds me of the Hermit in the Tarot of the She. In the Tarot of the She, the Hermit is standing in the foreground pointing to the island. And this card has a very similar energy. If you read, I believe it's Mark's, not John's, story for the inspiration of this card, the inspiration for this card happened in liminal space when he was camping near a waterfall and had quite a profound experience with a being like the one in the card here. This card, I don't even know where to begin with this card. There's so many beautiful layers. First of all, notice that this boat is tethered. This boat is not floating willy-nilly. So this float is connected to presumably a dock or something, to the land on this side. This is about a journey to a healing space. And one of the things that all of the writers say about this is to recognize that when we get to this experience, when we get to this time, which is where our friends are in the Southern Hemisphere right now, there is the precondition is that we have had some kind of wounding. We've had some kind of experience take place. And it's through our experience of grief, it's through our experience of pain that we find ourselves in a place where we're finally able to surrender. We're finally able to release the illusion of control. And when I was reading the inspiration for this card again last night, I'm just reminded of how easy it is to dismiss our ethereal experiences, dismiss our spiritual experiences, because we want to keep coming back here and everything kind of being lined up. You know, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. We've got our bullet points. We've got our list for today. And this card is about letting go of all of that. It's a card of surrendering and being with the journey. The Heron, you're going to see come up. So the Heron is the king. So the Heron is the king over here in the air. And there's lots of mythology around the Heron. You might know some of your own, but in this deck, it's the king of vessels, guardian of the crossing to the other side. So guardian of the other world, as well as the keeper of the mysteries. And yeah, so this, if you think about the Hanged Man and you think about this man in the boat, or this person in the boat, this is not so much as, it's kind of the same thing, but it's about, the language around this is so difficult. It's about, so with the idea with the Hanged Man, there's also a component of sacrifice, or there's a component of choosing to step into that process, choosing to hang upside down so that we can learn from a previous experience. There's a reason that the Hanged Man follows the Justice card, and I know in this deck it follows the Strength card, but it really makes sense to me that we need to take time to integrate the shift in the karmas. And if we look at this deck across the equinoxes, right, that karmic shift has happened in this line. So here's the karmic shift. And here's the inner experience of integrating that. This is not meant to be the moon. This is meant to be a globe, but it could very well be a moon. And like I say to, all of the students that are taking classes, if this needs to be a plate, let it be a plate, right? If this needs to be an egg, let it be an egg. But the intention with the artwork is that this is like a crystal ball, and here we have a mirror. A mirror is pretty obvious metaphor. The experience connecting us to the universal consciousness is the wheel. And I don't know if you can see over here, I brought, well, this has been on my table for a while, the Weaver's Oracle. I cannot say enough about this card. It is absolutely extraordinary. And when you have time to sit and reflect on this card, please, please, please take your time. The message here is that this is an unfinished garment. And the weaver is a metaphor. The weaver, right, is a metaphor for that which is greater than us. And the weaver, the weaver is only here to support us. The weaver is here to, yes, the weaver guides us, but the weaver does not approve or disapprove of the threads or the yarn or the type of scissors that we're using. We always have, and I was talking about the tools earlier, we always have our scissors with us, our metaphorical scissors. We always have our yarn or our thread with us. And in our little sewing kit, there's a million other little notions, and some of them might be more important than the other. But the idea with this particular wheel card is that we have the tools. And the weaver is here to help us support and guide us on our journey. And there's this real kind of the three, because there's three writers that write about this: Alison Cross, John Matthews, and Mark Ryan. And there's no judgment with the wheel. There's no judgment. The fact is that the wheel is always turning. The seasons are always turning. You can look at the other images here too, right? We have the 4 seasons represented. I find it really interesting. They talk about this, that the feathers here are the feathers of the four birds that represent the suit of air. So we have the heron. So these 4 feathers represent the heron, the swan, the hawk, and the wren. And again, so here we have a thread connecting the 2 equinoxes. There's something about this card that really kind of gets to me, and I love, love, love the metaphors. The other piece that I would like to do personally some more study into, it's been a long time since I read about the journey of the eel. And I don't know if you noticed, but both of the species that represent the queen and the knight here at the equinox at the autumnal equinox are both animals that make long, arduous journeys from salt to fresh or fresh to salt water. And there's some profound connection here with this whole energy of the equinoxes and how we move through that, and how we strive to keep, or how, if we intend to keep balance in a way if we intend to keep balance, if we consciously be aware of balance, if we choose our tools, if we be more mindful of what it is we carry in our quiver, if we understand that it is our choices that affect how the garment is, what color the garment is, or how the garment fits. And there's this really, really cool connection here between what's going on this side, the guardians of the autumn and the guardians of the spring. The other piece too, for those of you that read for everybody, so remember that this is the February, March, April. Well, we're here with March, right? So this is, I had to write this down because this is so challenging, but I think this is really important. So March. Oh, please help me here. While this is, what I want to say is, while this is our March, this is the September of our friends in the South. And this is our experience, right? This is our experience of near the end of September. But this is the experience of March in the South. And I think I was doing a little bit of, had my colored pencils out to try to wrap my head around this, and I'm still, it's this whole COVID thing and working with people all over the world in a way that I never have before that makes me want to be more mindful of where people are in the world. So yeah. So just to think that this is the March for our friends in the South. Let's do one more card. This is a card that has been a bit of a challenge for me in this deck, and I don't think I ever really got it. The Six of Vessels. The key word is reunion. And I think part of me always wanted to go to the association with the Six of Cups. And I wanted to make this reunion about my association of, oh yeah, the Six of Cups often comes up when people are going to class reunions or family reunions. Isn't that cool that the key word is reunion? But I never really understood, and I kind of just left it at that. And then I began to really start to explore what this means. One of the things, and I'm tooting my own horn here, one of the courses that I'm teaching next is the minors course. So I'm doing a 4-week, it's kind of like the Read With Me series, but we're just going to focus on the minors. And when we start to reflect on the flow of the minors from the Ace through the 10 and how the energy starts to increase as we get, especially as we get past the 5, if we start to think about emotions and emotions starting to escalate and grow, when we get to the 6, there's a lot, right? There's a lot. It's almost the time when the scale can tip. I'm thinking about those I don't know, I'm just thinking about a vessel where you would fill it up and it would get to a certain level and then it would tip over. I can't even think of what's in my mind, but this feels like the tipping point to me. It feels like the tipping point. Hey there, Nancy. Welcome, welcome. So what I want to say about this card is, if you look at the source of the water is deep within the earth. So go deep here. Go deep. The source of the water is deep within the earth, right? You are the earth. And here we have an image where the water is coming up and flowing into this stream. And so there's a few things here that really helped me to tie in this whole picture of equinox. And that is in the Six of Vessels. If we begin to dig, because we always have a choice not to, right? We can always put the blinders on. We can keep our mouth shut. We can suppress our feelings. But I believe that the Six of Vessels is asking us to let that go. The Six of Vessels is asking us, encouraging us to let the emotions arise, to let the emotions start to flow. We begin to excavate deep water of our own inner darkness, drawing long buried emotions up and out into the light. And so what I see in this card is the emotional journey. A beautiful painting of the emotional journey. And if we look at the trees, the strength of the trees that are behind, we have a lot of connection here. There's a lot of other symbology you can bring in. We also have two otters over on the right, and otters appear on lots of cards, so you can use those cards to weave stories with this deck. And the two otters help to bring in that lightness, right? There doesn't have to be pain in letting go. There can be joy in letting go. There can be freedom in letting go. And if we go back over to kind of where we started with the archer, yeah, there can be fear in releasing that sword, but there can also be joy and freedom. And so in looking at this whole pile of cards here, I'm beginning to see and draw and understand so many more connections with this deck. And so this is why I decided I was going to do the solstices now, but I decided it's enough. So we're going to do the solstices in the next video. So just take some time and reflect on the energy of all of this, because it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And if there's any questions, I can answer those in the chat. Sorry, not in the chat, in the comments below. Or if you want to bring them up when we get to the next video. So the solstices video will just be in a couple of days. Okay. And I just wanted to remind you that there are 4, besides the minor arcana course, there's 3 other courses that are coming up over the next few weeks. And so you can go to my website and check them out. We are in week 3 today of the yogic practices to awaken intuition. And I have not yet put up a level 2 for that course, which is something that I will do. What is coming up next is the breath class. And so we're going to do 4 weeks of different breath practices. That is in the yoga section. And then in the tarot section, there's the court card class, as well as the minor arcana class. And there's a court card class, which is one of my favorite things to work with and share and talk about. And so there's those 2, and I think there's one more. I think that there's 4 classes that are starting very soon. And I have my little bookmark here. So just the tarot minors, just the tarot court, and the breath and meditation series. There will be lots more coming. And if you are interested in taking any of the classes that you didn't get into this last round, let me know as well too. And the next series of new classes probably won't be till the summer, but we'll see how that goes. So thanks for being here today. And again, let me know if you have any questions about this amazing deck or specific aspects of this deck that you're struggling with. Alrighty. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to go back and look through the chat and just see if there's anything to inspire the next video. And I'll see you all very, very soon. I'll be back on later today. Namaste.